Welcome. Let's come to order. Welcome to Senate meeting number 7. I think we have enough of a quorum that we could begin. Looks like from Tempe and the other places too. Our guest speakers today are Mark Searle, Raymond Humbert, and Steve Borden. We also have a special guest visiting our Senate, David Cohen, who is president of the University of New South Wales Academic Board. David has a dual role in his visit here. He was doing some geological work in northern Arizona, meeting with faculty of the Earth Sciences and others at ASU who are involved with the PLUS Alliance with our universities. David, would you like to stand? So he is visiting the Senates here and figuring out what words of wisdom he can impart to us and we can impart to him. Welcome. As a reminder, we will have an open forum at the end of the Senate meeting. Senators wishing to speak should state their name and unit that they represent. And any person who is not a senator and wishes to speak must register their name, unit, and purpose with Chris Kieselka, the Senate Secretary, right here. And those from the other campuses, if you would just email Chuck if there's anybody there who is not a senator and wishes to speak. We'll now have a quorum calculation, and we have two methods of calculating the quorum. The first is to show attendance by campus, so let's begin with that. Chuck, the only problem I have with the blurriness on this screen is I can barely read the numbers, so you'll have to, okay.
Looks good, like we're at 74, 75, Kathy.
75, okay. Can we close it? Okay. And the second is to verify the total attendance by campus so that we know that our clickers are working. So,
so that was this one. And then we're going to do your question.
Now we're doing the question. Yeah. Okay. Yes, this is the one verifying the total. So here is the question for that. How many senators does an academic unit with 50 faculty members get? I looked it up. I did my homework. Well, this clicker's 70. Oh, we have more now. Okay.
It looks like we have 77.
77, so two people must, 878. Two people must have come in. Okay. Units that have between 0 and 39 academic assembly members get 1 senator. Between 40 and 99 academic assembly members get 2 senators. And for 100 or more, they get 3. So the answer is C. Thank you. We're now ready for some information reports, and our first one is Mark Searle.
Good afternoon, everyone, and nice to see everybody as summer seems to be creeping in. By my walk across campus, and I have to walk to Biodesign from here, so I should not have forgot a hat today. First of all, I was asked to give you some information about some of the issues around our international students. We've just had a forum that's actually still going on in the MU, and we were pleased that we had about 140 or so people who physically came, and then it's been streaming on the web as well. I'm told it even got bigger than that, which is great, because the whole purpose was to share information as widely as we possibly could with our community. I guess what I wanted to begin with by saying that I think the thing that we all take some modest comfort in is in that our charter very much speaks to who we are and what we believe and the values that we project, and that those values are unchanged by executive orders. And so it may be that the executive order says certain things, as one recently did about the use of bathrooms. Nothing has changed at ASU with regard to our perspective on providing access to all members of our community. And so we are not motivated or interested in changing because of those kinds of things. We will remain committed to the values we've articulated in our charter. And the same thing is true for our international students, in that we clearly value our international students, our international faculty, and our international staff. It is very much critical, as I think every one of us would agree, for a university to have so many diverse points of view and so many diverse perspectives, so that we can best educate and conduct our scholarly inquiry. And so we're committed to continuing that as best we can. This is one part where we have some restrictions, which is in the acquisition of visas for either students or for faculty. And we continue to lobby for this. Our lobbying team has been deployed to advocate for this. Any instance we have of someone who is being denied access of a visa, or who was here and went abroad and can't get back, we have people intervening as quickly as humanly possible to try and address those particular issues. So a number of the questions that have come up that I thought I would speak to, because it might help continue to share more information. But before I do want to mention that, reiterate that we have this website that is now up, and that website will continually be updated with more information as things change. As you know, this is a very dynamic environment. We've had 2 executive orders on international travel bans, and both have been struck down by the courts currently, and so we will see where they end up. But currently, there is in effect no travel ban, but we all know that we're worried about the impacts that it could have should it come into play. So one of the questions was, if students are affected by the travel ban, can they complete their degrees online? Clearly, if it's a degree we already have online, that's not a problem at all, and yes, we will facilitate that. Secondly, we are talking with, particularly in case of DACA students, with the Autonomous University of Mexico, about some accommodation should anything happen in that space, so that students could be accommodated and help them finish degrees that they couldn't otherwise finish via online with us. With respect to anything that doesn't fit into those, we're working on figuring out how we're going to do that, but we're committed to students, and we're going to figure out solutions with them to try and enable them to complete their degrees should something prevent them from coming back to the United States. For graduate students, I mean, that'll depend on their committees and what's necessary, and those are much more individualized kinds of circumstances than undergraduates. The question was, can students affected by any change in American immigration policy complete their degrees online? I already answered that. Is ICE allowed on campus without a warrant? We don't collaborate with ICE. That's the Immigration Authority of the federal government. We listen to them, our police hear from them all the time, and we politely decline to participate because that's not our police force's responsibility. They enforce what expatriate Canadians, like I would say, common in our Constitution was peace, order, and good government. In other words, they don't deal with such issues as immigration. Can they come on campus? We certainly can't prevent a federal agency from coming on campus. We don't simply facilitate or collaborate in those actions. So there's also a question always about whether we share information with ICE. We don't share anything with ICE because ICE actually gives us the information about international students and international employees, because they're the ones who granted the visa and all the permissions to come in. They have more information on any of us than as a guy who I know only immigrated from Canada, but I can tell you they got more information on me than the university has. And so they don't need to contact us for any particular information. And they, to my knowledge, they have not been contacting us for that purpose. And the question about whether we collect any data on students' immigration status, only for, we're required to collect some data to verify students are DACA eligible in order to give them the in-state tuition. But that's it. But again, federal government issues the DACA permits, so it isn't something that we control or that is particularly germane to something that we have to deal with. So all in all, I mean, right now it is obviously a situation in a bit of flux, but the institution is staying true to its commitments. We're not changing. We're continuing to support our students. We have met with our international students on more than one occasion. Jim Rund has met with them. I've met with them. Others have met with them. And we've been providing assistance through the law clinic that we run downtown for anybody who has immigration legal questions. And on the website, there's directions as to how to access that in case somebody has questions. And we will continue to provide as much support as we possibly can to ensure that our community stays robust and intact and not adversely affected to the extent that we can control that. So those are the things I wanted to share with you about that. And Stephanie and Deb were at the forum that was just concluding, and they may have more information, but that's where we're at right at the moment. And I would encourage you to make sure people know about the website, because that will be the forum through which we share information on a regular basis. And if anything major should break, we'll be writing again. As you know, I've written on several occasions, and the President has made clear his position on the executive order regarding the international travel ban. And to say, put it lightly, he didn't think much of it. And we don't. And the President's also been quite explicit in his support for DACA students. And the university remains committed to all those things. And so it doesn't matter where we are in the institution, those are the positions the institution is taking. So we're committed to that. I'd be happy to take any questions about any of these matters. Okay. Pauley, any questions at the Pauley campus?
No questions here, thank you.
Any questions from downtown campus?
No questions from downtown campus.
Okay. Any questions at West campus?
No questions from the West campus.
Thank you. And I don't see anybody here. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for helping us understand this complicated issue. University Services and Facilities Committee has invited Raymond Humbert from Parking Services to report on services offered by his office.
Thank you, Kathy. Hope everyone can hear me all right. Good afternoon, and thank you for inviting me. I've been asked to talk about some of the things in advancements in parking and transit, some of the issues on all the campuses, and in past discussions that I've had, sometimes questions go much longer than the 15 minutes I'll be allocated. So please feel free. Let me start out front now. My name is Raymond Humbert, so that's my email address. You can call me Ray. My parents do. So please, if there are questions that you have after this and we don't get a chance to answer them, or if I'm not here, please feel free to email me or give me a call, and we can help to dissect your specific issue and your specific campus, or how we can best suit you. Well, some of the things that I'm not quite sure what you understand of what parking and transit does, but some of the things that we are planning on doing is that we have been in discussions with the city planner, the Department of Real Estate, Capital Programs Management Group, Facility Maintenance, Office of the University Architect, and Dr. Olson's office to look at a lot of things that are happening on the campuses, not just Tempe, but also downtown West, Poly. Such as in the downtown campus, we're trying to make sure that we can accrue enough parking spaces for the increase in growth of the downtown campus. We're trying to solve some issues and work with the Poly Master Plan to work on what may happen there based on the development that's planned for the Polytechnic campus. And in addition, Parking and Transit is working on a parking and transit transportation plan. So in case some of you don't or do ride the shuttles, if you've noticed this past year, we went from coach buses that were 54, 57 maximum students to double-decker buses that now can carry up to 93. And because classes that get shifted around, and sometimes we're not brought to the table on that, all of a sudden we'll see that we don't want to leave any students behind. So we quite track the number of students on each of our buses to make sure that we can accommodate people going from one campus to the next. In a lot of cases, there are faculty and staff that also ride those shuttles. And heaven forbid, we don't want them to start their classes late, because we'll hear about it. In addition, back on the development page, I'm sure you're all aware of the Sun Devil 365 and the rehab of the football stadium. We've been actively involved in that committee to figure out how best we can handle the parking that's going to bring to campus. In addition to the district, which is the development that's going to happen north of Veterans Way, all the way up to Rio Salado, and then over to Rural, and then on the eastern side of Rural too. There's a lot of development that's going to happen. So there's a lot that involves us. If you think about all the cranes that are on campus, you have Biodesign C over there off of Rural Road. You also have the Greek Leadership Village that's over on the east side of Rural Road. You have Palo Verde, which is going from 360 beds to close to 900 beds, which means more students on campus, which probably means more cars, and how best we're going to manage that. In our parking structures, with this past year, we just recently put in a whole bunch of new parking equipment. So hopefully, for those of you who have parking permits that park, hopefully you'll find that a little bit easier to come and go. I hope so. I don't see anybody scouring in the audience. So some of the other things that I was asked to bring up is one of the things that we're doing on all the campuses is that we're looking at the number of ADA spaces. So we have been making some changes because as we opened up our structures to visitors, it changed the dynamics of the people who needed those ADA spaces. When it used to be just permits, we know that we sell about 230 ADA permits across all the campuses. There is approximately 590 ADA spaces throughout all the campuses that they could use. But when they're with an influx of visitors or people who don't have an ADA permit, but yet have a placard or a plate and they park in the visitor spaces, which are now shared with the permit spaces, we've been adjusting our numbers and we've been slowly going through looking at the usage and counts and how many times during the day they're filled or not filled, so that way we can expand. Like recently at the Apache structure, we added enough to put 45, I believe, ADA spaces in the garage to accommodate the demand. So we haven't maxed that out yet, but we'll track it and we'll see how best we can do. Some concerns about the West Campus and other places. Little by little, we're going around and we're changing some of the things on ADA to the new ADA requirements, which is the signs have to be a certain height, there's widths, and van accessibles have to be on the right-hand side. And so we're surveying all of that, not just ourselves, but also we have a consultant who's helping us do that. If there's any specific questions that I can talk about, either on the development, either on the parking garages, either on permits, I can try to answer those. So should we?
If you don't mind, since it's a little awkward, you getting up and doing it, if you'd ask if there are any questions.
Okay, well, let's ask at the Polytechnic campus. Do you have any questions?
Yes, we have a question.
Hi. Hi, can you hear me?
Barely, but please, go ahead.
I'll try to speak louder. As far as I understand, the direction from the provost and the whole policy of the university that the Polytechnic campus will be growing rapidly, hopefully 20% a year. Will the parking spaces be catching up with that demand?
That's why we're luckily being involved at the table. In the past, parking and transit was something that was an afterthought. And it was like all of a sudden the dorm was built, and then they said, oh, by the way, you have to handle another 600 students that are coming to campus. We've been fortunate enough in the past years at the table with those development groups like Rich Stanley's office and the campus planners to basically sit there and talk about the demand and what that demand means to the existing inventory of parking and also future growth. So we get to sit at the table and discuss these things with the planners so they can understand the need of the parkers of not just their permits, but also the visitors that come to the campus. I hope that answers your question.
Well, it doesn't really answer the specific plan for Polytechnic. So what are the plans?
Well, the plans, in a sense, I don't think I'm at the point where I am not on the development committee that can say, here's what's going to do, but there's been ideas of adding one, possibly two parking structures based on the future development at Polytechnic. So that will end up hopefully meeting some of the need as the development in Polytechnic grows. I think they're concentrating more to the south as to how to better increase the roadways, having better transit shuttle stops to go around, because as you know, we currently only have two, and also to provide for the parking of vehicles either in structures or different surface lots. I hope that helps.
We have one other question.
Also, I've had some hearsay that the parking permits out here at Poly are going to go up to $800 a year. Is this true?
No, I can't say that it's not true. It's not true to the fact that we always have an increase. We haven't raised our rates across the board for any of our permit parkers for the last 6 to 8 years. Gabe is at 10 years. Thank you, Gabe. I have my handler here who's helping me with the facts and figures. So if you think about the fact that as our costs go up, as you know, I just talked about the shuttles, and to increase those numbers of shuttles, to have buses that be able to shuttle students around on those timetables and also on weekends and also for special events, some of that's paid for by student funds, and some of that basically comes out of our coffers. So if you think about the fact that parking permits are strictly paying for that, that's not true, because as you know, we do shuttles. We also do the off-mode, the bicycles, the walk-only zones. There's a lot of things that we fund through parking and transit funds. So no, I don't think we plan on bringing rates up to $800, but there may be some adjustment based on the demands of what's going to happen. So that's Gabe. He's here to keep me straight. The rates at Poly will definitely stay lower than Tempe and downtown. As you know, downtown is the biggest demand for space, and Tempe also. We've been able to manage things quite well here in Tempe based on opening up the garages. But as development happens, it usually happens on a parking lot. So as that happens, we're going to lose parking. So unless we can sit at the table and discuss things with the university planners and the architect's office and real estate, we need to try to keep those some parking spaces available so that we can manage the demand. I hope that helps. Any other questions from Poly?
No further questions. Thank you.
Well, thank you. How about downtown?
No questions from downtown.
Well, thank you. How about the West Campus?
Yeah, we have one question from West Campus, so go ahead, Mary.
Okay.
Hello, this is Mary Burleson, and
and I was just inquiring about the wireless service on the shuttles. There have been reports many times from students that the wireless service on the shuttles is very spotty, and I'm wondering if that's changed at all.
Well, let's talk about a couple things, in fact, on the wireless service. Each bus has its own wireless hotspot. So as right now, if we have a device or a computer, then we go from campus to campus and we open it up, it automatically connects to the ASU internet. The buses are not part of the ASU internet. So the student has to connect to the Wi-Fi on that specific bus. Now, if they do that every day and ride that bus, yes, they can. But if they ride a different bus, then they have to connect to that Wi-Fi. And don't forget, as Wi-Fi's go down the freeway, you have hotspots and some not so hotspots, so it can come and go. Plus, we've noticed in the riderships going from, let's say, 54 riders to 98 riders, it puts an extra demand on the Wi-Fi on that particular bus. We've worked with our vendor and we've increased the bandwidth of the Wi-Fi on the buses, and we've also kind of eliminated certain places that students can go. I myself saw somebody Skyping with somebody in Israel when I was riding the bus, and I don't necessarily think that's where we want to go, where students want to get in and do classwork or maybe even check emails. But the Skype itself takes up a lot of bandwidth, and so it's taking away from everyone else on that bus. Does that help answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Okay. So we went Poly, we went west, we went downtown. Are there questions here?
I'm Dave Wells, and I take the shuttle from the Tempe campus downtown, and I love it. I've been doing it for a number of years, and it's been a very, I tend to bicycle to this campus and do that. So I think it's been a wonderful multimodal transportation.
Thank you for not driving a car.
Yeah, and I've never had a parking pass in my 18 years at ASU. But I also I teach a politics class downtown. I'm in the Mercado this semester, and I always try to bring in an elected official every semester. So I brought in Secretary of State Michelle Reagan this time, and I usually try to make a reservation. And this time it got a little complicated because the Mercado is the Phoenix garage, so I couldn't actually really make a reservation. The day of that she was to speak, I bicycled by the garage, and I saw it was full because of an event, and I was like, oh my gosh, where's she going to go? Anyway, and then when she left, so she didn't make a reservation. She did end up getting to park there, and then I paid for her as she left. But I'm just wondering if there's a better way, or if you're exploring ways to improve the ways in which you can handle guest parking at the Mercado.
Well, the Mercado's is, for those who are not familiar with the downtown campus, is at Heritage Park. The parking garage is released space in there from the city of Phoenix. We are subject to their visiting rules. We buy validation tickets for there, which rather than you paying, you should have been able to buy a validation ticket. So if she was inside the garage, she would be able to use that validation ticket to exit. So that would have been one thing I would suggest in the future. Check with our people at the downtown office, and you can purchase some of those. Your department can. We can't guarantee a spot. We can't reserve a spot in a garage that we don't own. But if that is full, I would suggest the east garage, which is just to the north, is a large garage that usually has space. So it might be easier, even though the walk is slightly longer, to coordinate that, or coordinate it parking over in our UCent garage or a Cronkite visitor lot. Those two, since we do operate and own those, you can use those validations at those two structures too.
Okay,
or structure and lot.
But you can get a validation for the Heritage Garage? Is that
You can get a validation for the Heritage Garage, yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, Helene Usbaugh from the School of International Letters and Cultures. I don't have a question, just a comment. I've been using, since I've been at ASU, the bus system, and I'm very happy that I've been able to get the unlimited bus pass at ASU, and then the EcoPass, for the occasional parking is a great idea.
Thank you.
So I just want to thank you for both, and I hope that both of those continue.
As of right now, with the new equipment, we had to make some adjustments on the EcoPass. For those who you may not be aware, obviously faculty and staff can buy discounted light rail, not light rail, but the Valley Metro passes. And if there are times that you have to come to campus, you can apply for and get an EcoPass, which you could use to park in certain garages. There's a little additional cost to it, but it's not as much as the daily cost. And it allows you access in and out of the structure. And thank you for saying that. It's a nice program, one that a lot of people are not aware of, but we're happy. Those who know about it like it very much. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Jamie Wetmore from the School for the Future of Innovation and Society. So there seems to be a trend at the Tempe campus of combining day-use parking and year-long permit parking. And as this has happened, I've noticed car damage going up significantly and pedestrian safety going down significantly. I'm curious if there's any talk or possibility of maintaining some areas for year passes only to prevent those changes.
As you know, some of our garages used to be permit only, and we had segregated visitor sections. And for those people that have events, they would find that those visitor sections were full and their guests had to go someplace else. Whereas, let's take the Apache as an example, which was the most concentrated. We would have anywhere from 75 to 100 spaces up on the roof, depending on the day. Tuesday and Thursday, of course, not so much. But Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we had this inventory that was going unused. Yes, we've opened up all the garages now, so it's similar to, if you're familiar with the Fulton Center, where it's shared between permit holder and visitors. I get the accident reports that come through, and I don't see that many more in numbers than what I've seen in the past, and granted so. We're always going to run into the case where someone is not cautious with their vehicle, and we just expect them to do the right thing and leave a note and deal one-on-one with the person if there is an accident, whether somebody's bumped into somebody's car. Now, pedestrian safety, I haven't heard of any issues that are that really of note. There are elevators in some garages, some are just stairways, and we ask everybody to be careful in what they do and where they walk. And unfortunately, I've always think about students who are very conscious of playing with their phone as they walk, to the point that we worked with the city of Phoenix, and if you're ever at the downtown at Taylor Place and First Street, you'll notice stenciled on the ground is the word look and an arrow in two directions. And so we worked with the city of Phoenix to do that because we envisioned a lot of people, since they put that traffic light as new, people would be walking across and not looking both ways, as we were taught early on in life. So the safety factor is, I'm not saying that there isn't an issue with someone driving too fast. ASU police patrol our facilities for us. We also have our staff that go through there in their normal day of work, and if they see somebody that's driving erratically or too fast, they'll take the license plate number and we'll contact that person and remind them that there is an acceptable speed in the garage that they should be taking. So if there's something specific or an area or a hot spot that you're concerned with, please feel free to reach out to me and we can discuss that.
Yeah, I had a quick chat about this with the parking office, and when I mentioned it, they rolled their eyes and they said, you don't know how many complaints we're getting about that issue on a daily basis. So I do hope some of that's percolating up.
Well, it does percolate up. We do have surveys that anybody who comes into our facilities or go online, there is a survey at the bottom that you can take, and we look at those every month, and we read all the comments of those, the administrators and the managers. Read all those comments. In a lot of cases, it signals out an employee who's done a great job. In a lot of cases, it signals out someone who may have not given the type of service that somebody liked. And so that gives us the opportunity to go and have a coaching position with that person and say, that was their side of the story. What was your side of the story, as you remember, and talk that through. And if there's ways to improve that service, then we can do that.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to critique any of your staff. I thought they did a great job. So
well, thank you.
That wasn't my intent.
The comments we get are more positive on our staff, and we are very diligent in making sure that we send them to training on customer service and how to deal with people who are upset. There's a lot of great university training that we send our our staff to. But thank you. Thank you for the comment. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Margie Baldwin from Economics. I have a multi-site, multi-campus parking permit and didn't realize that you can't renew those automatically. So last fall I found myself in line at the beginning of the semester trying to renew my parking permit with numerous students. The line one was outside the building. This was at here on Tempe, the parking services. When I got inside, it reminded me of the post office. There were like 6 windows, but only 2 with people at them serving the various people that were in line, and other staff wandering around in back. And I felt badly for myself, but for the students. They are paying to come to this university, and can we do something better about staffing those windows at the peak periods so that it looks like we're making an effort to have enough staff?
We do put an effort out. We're sorry that those people were not there when you were there. We do try to push everybody online. That's basically the way to do that. In your case, I understand where you say you needed to come in and get your dual permit. We do provide water for those who have to stand outside. We used to do things like cotton candy and popcorn and candy and misters. But as we went online and as more and more of our population used online, we found those lines outside the structure less and less. And for those of you who have been a long time, if you've ever had to come over the parking and transit, the line used to reach all the way down 5th Street and around on Forest. And so now it's really not that bad. I think that there is always a need for some people to come at the last minute or to handle specific issues. But we try to provide the service that we can. And I'm sorry you had to wait.
The line is really long. If people are there, get them to customer service.
Well,
Thank you.
Just, you know, for those of you with just keep an eye out on your emails. We are coming close to renewal season, so please do that. With our staff, as Gabe reminded me, we do have to shift them in and out sometimes. I can't tell you the number of times that people who become in very irate, they take it out on our employees, and they too are human, and they too get upset. We try to train them as much to be able to handle that, but some people are just diligent and wanting to yell as much as they can at this instance. But we do take breaks, and we do try to keep our shift going. Actually, our administrators jump in and help as best we can. Well, thank you. We'll try to do better for you. Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Dan McCarville. I'm over in Sidsey in the Mill and 7th Street, and we have the Brickyard and the Brickyard parking, and quite a number of our faculty travel quite a bit to conferences and also to our research sponsors and so forth meetings, and it would be very convenient to leave our car in the parking structure overnight and walk to the light rail station to the airport. Is that possible yet? Last I knew, it was we were told we were not allowed to do that.
The Brickyard situation is such that ASU is part of like almost a condo association as a way to analogize that, is the fact that we don't control it. It's run by a separate operator, even though we were lucky enough when they switched out their equipment that we were able to get them to use readers to allow our same type of permits. Like if you were going to Fulton, you could also go into the Brickyard if that was set up as such. I don't know what their policy is on leaving cars overnight. But if people feel they need to do that, they can always contact me, or you can contact our office. We can make arrangements possibly at the stadium structure or at the Fulton structure. And then the light rail station, of course, is right there on 5th Street, so that's just as close. If there are people that need to leave their vehicles overnight because they have trips, we can accommodate that. We let our staff know that this particular license plate will be there for 4 or 5 days. We also try to let ASU PD know in case let's say you left your lights on or something like that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I think I'm past my 15 minutes. As I said, again, please feel free if you want to email me specific questions or if there's something I can do to help you. I really appreciate the fact that we were invited. Kathy, thank you so much. And thank you for the other campuses. Thank you.
And thank you, Barbara Guzzetti, who worked on getting Raymond here. Steve Borden is our next speaker, and Steve is the Director of Veteran Services and the Tillman Center. And he was invited by the Student Faculty Policy Committee, Keith Hollinger's committee, to describe service for students who are veterans. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you for allowing me to spend a few minutes here with you today, and I'll try and make this just a few minutes, and I don't know that I'll get you caught up, but I want to thank all of you for the discussions that you've had with regards to supporting, in particular, those students that we have who are attending ASU, either immersion program or online, and are still serving in some sort of active capacity, either with our reserve or guard or active duty. So I thank you for the discussions that you have had during these sessions, earlier sessions this semester on that. Just so you're aware, those who are still actively serving number almost 1,000 students now at ASU. We have another 1,000 spouses or dependent children who are using or have used GI Bill. And then another 4,500 veterans. So our military-related community is actually over 6,500 now, so it's quite a population that we are trying to support. When I'm asked to convey the challenges that they have sometimes, one particular student comes to mind, and I thought that, in spite of the fact that I only had a few minutes, that this story was worth sharing with you. This student called me from overseas. They were doing a study abroad in Germany. And he called me. He had been in my Student Success for Veteran class. And he said, Steve, I am really enjoying my time over here in Germany. I said, well, I knew you were doing well in your German classes. The German must be coming along very well for you. And he said, well, actually, it's a little rougher on the language side than I expected it to be. I said, well, then why are you enjoying your time over there so much? And he said, well, I'm in a foreign country. Okay, you knew that. You're going to be going to study abroad. This shouldn't be an earth-shattering revelation to you. And he says, no. He says, I'm over here, and I'm in a foreign country, and it's okay to feel like I'm in a foreign country. So I started to explore that statement a little bit, and I realized I have not studied abroad, but I have traveled abroad. In fact, spent time growing up abroad. And so I spoke with our staff, and this idea came up about when you're in a foreign country, what makes you feel like you are not at home? The language is different. The dress is different. The food is different. The social structure and norms and how you interact with one another can be very different. And time management is also oftentimes different. Well, I can assure you, having spent 29 years in the Navy before I arrived here at ASU, that when you get out of the service, the language is different, the dress is different, the food is different, the social structure and norms are different, time management is different. And so in a very real sense, our veterans are here on campus adjusting to a culture which is different enough from the military service that they actually feel like they're in a foreign country. This, when it's explained to them, oftentimes helps them actually come to grasp with what they're feeling. They didn't necessarily realize why they felt as out of place as they did. I think it also helps us from the staff and faculty side learn how to better serve them when we realize exactly how different this experience and environment is for them. So that may be something to mull over and maybe figure out in your own interaction with veterans and so forth, maybe helping deal with some of these things. As far as the Veteran Center and our services are concerned, probably one of the biggest things that we offer is a Vet Success on-campus counselor. This is a VA employee that works out of our office. He can really help explore difficulties with the VA. He can help students connect with VA medical services. He can help explore real challenges maybe that they're having with their benefits. He was previously trained as a vocational rehab counselor, so he can speak with veterans with regards to what they want to do in their next career, which oftentimes helps them in better selection of program of study, or particularly if they don't get into their first choice of program of study, help them explore what might be a good alternative. Of course, we do benefits counseling and advising with students, and I would just say, if you ever have a situation where you're recommending to a student to drop a course, and oftentimes that may be the best choice for them academically or with whatever is going on in their life to drop something which they're currently enrolled in, please advise them to come and talk with us at the center. It's a complicated issue. The VA does not count rate of pursuit the same way the Department of Education does. So even if they were to go to financial advising and talk about their federal aid, what the VA is going to do in terms of possibly billing them back is going to be different than what's going to happen if they're receiving federal financial aid. We also have very good relationships between our office and ASU Counseling and Wellness Services. Sometimes there are some programs that can work together between the VA and ASU Counseling. If ever a student needs that sort of assistance, feel free to reach out and to engage us as soon as possible. I have actually had students come into our center, and I have walked them myself over to ASU Counseling and made sure that they saw somebody. I can also connect them with the VA counselor who works in one of the local vet centers and is trained, actually a graduate, one of our alumni who's out there in the community from ASU who can help connect students with services. There is nothing too big or too small as far as what we are willing to engage with our student veterans in to try and help them through any sort of an issue. Sometimes it's something that's relatively easy to navigate. Sometimes it can be complex. Certainly some residency issues sometimes are complex. But the point is that we are there to help them, and oftentimes the veteran themselves don't realize that our willingness to help them through a situation goes beyond just benefits and getting their tuition and fees paid for. So whether it's online or in person, we are there and willing to help connect students. And we will be working with the Office of Veteran and Military Academic Engagement, Professor Mark Von Hagen and his assistant Nancy Dillette. This coming fall around Veterans Day and our Salute to Service Week, there should be a new round of faculty and staff training with regards to working with veterans that will be coming out. It's going to be looking at our veterans from a very holistic manner, not just looking at a deficit model and some of their challenges, but making sure everyone is aware of the wealth of experience and breadth of talent that they bring to the academic environment, which you actually may be able to leverage. So with that, I guess we'll go quickly through the campuses and then look at asking questions. Any questions from West Campus?
No, there are no questions for the West Campus. Thank you.
Downtown?
No questions from downtown.
Poly Campus?
No questions from Poly either.
Okay. And from here? Okay. All right. You're certainly welcome.
Thank you. Okay. Well, Chuck gets things set up a little bit. Our March Senator Spotlight is Jacqueline Wheeler, who represents the Department of English. Jacqueline has been a member of the Senate for 5 years over 2 terms. She has been with ASU for 29 years and as a member of the non-tenure track task force of 2010-2012, which, among other things, resulted in increased Senate and university-wide attention to NTT issues and a greater voice for NTT faculty. Jacqueline states that she encourages fellow non-tenure track colleagues to represent their units in both college and university level senates. The Senate represents the best opportunity at ASU to safeguard these principles of faculty governance and academic freedom. Today, you will have a second read and a vote on motions presented by the Research and Creative Activities Committee, the Open Access Task Force, and the Constitution and Bylaws Review Committee. I wish to personally thank the committee and their chairs for moving this work forward to you, the Senate, in a timely manner. The committees report that they have not received any additional feedback from the Senate, so the motions will go forward as written. We will also introduce a first read on Senate Resolution 2017-59, Resolution Supporting International Students and Employees. If you have not had an opportunity to review this motion, please do so prior to its introduction. Please limit your questions to the substance of the motion, and if you have wordsmithing suggestions, we welcome you to present those in writing. During this past month, Mike Mokwa and I attended an information session regarding some positive improvements that came about as a result of a review of the optional retirement program administered by ABOR for ASU employees. In the fall, a new fund menu will be available to all faculty and staff that has more options and reduced administrative fees. There will be no change in the university system contribution strategies, eligibility, or vetting. We encourage the business and financial services leadership to begin communicating the new options to ASU participants this spring and early summer. So I just wanted you to be aware that that hopefully will be coming in terms of information. Helene Osipov and I represented ASU at the Pac-12 Academic Leadership Coalition in Salt Lake City, March 3rd through the 5th. The Pac-12 ALC has put forward a press release opposing the executive order suspending the entry to the United States of individuals from certain countries. The full statement can be found at the pac12alc.org website. One of our senators has brought a request forward to discuss problems with the two-factor identification system for logging onto MyASU. We've done an informal ask of several users, and it appears that the problems may be more on an individual basis and may not be widespread. If senators are hearing issues with the two-factor system that would warrant communication with the UTO, please send an email describing the problems that were not able to be resolved so that we can determine how and if to move forward with this request. On a personal note, I thought the system was a bit aggravating until I discovered the option to remember the authentication for 7 days, and that really helped. There's also a training video that we will post on the Senate website that talks about the two-factor identification. Finally, the Arizona Board of Regents will hold their April meeting the 5th through the 7th at the Tucson campus of the University of Arizona. I will be attending, as will Chris Kieselka, Senate Secretary, and Donna Cataldo, President of the downtown campus. I also am the AFC representative and get to sit at the, I have a chair at the Board of Regents. I'm not I'm an ex officio member, not a voter, but I certainly can bring forward any concerns that you guys might have. So thank you. We're now ready for some new business and CAPC motions. Carolyn Harrison will present the new CAPC motions.
The following motions are being presented for the first read. They will be discussed at the upcoming CAPC meeting on March 30th on Thursday, and then the final vote will be at the next Senate meeting on April 24th. If you have any questions or concerns about the following motions, if possible, bring them to my attention before the meeting on Thursday, but definitely before our next Senate meeting. The item in Appendix A will be voted on by CAPC and will not be presented again to the Senate. Bear with me, there are a large number of them today. First of all, a request from the College of Health Solutions to transfer a graduate degree, MS in Biomedical Diagnostics, from Biomedical Informatics to the International School of Biomedical Diagnostics. Request from the College of Health Solutions, School of Nutrition and Health Promotion for the establishment of a graduate degree, MS in Biomechanics. And a request from the College of Health Solutions, School of Nutrition and Health Promotion for the establishment of an undergraduate certificate, personal fitness training. Request from the College of Health Solutions Dean's Office to transfer an undergraduate degree, BS in Medical Studies, to the School for the Science of Healthcare Delivery. Request from the College of Health Solutions, School for the Science of Healthcare Delivery, for the establishment of an undergraduate certificate, Healthcare Policy and Delivery. Request from the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences Dean's Office to transfer a graduate certificate, Nonfiction Writing and Publishing, to the School for the Future of Innovation in Society. Request from the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences Dean's Office to transfer an undergraduate certificate, Southeast Asian Studies, to the School of Historical, Philosophical, and Religious Studies. Request from the College of Integrative Sciences and Arts for the establishment of an undergraduate certificate, Desert Food Production. Request from the College of Integrative Sciences and Arts for the establishment of an undergraduate certificate, Peace Corps Prep. Request from the Ira A. Fulton Schools of Engineering, the Polytechnic School, for the name change of a graduate degree from PhD in Simulation, Modeling, and Applied Cognitive Science to PhD in Human Systems Engineering. Request from the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, School of Life Sciences, for the establishment of an undergraduate degree, BS in Neuroscience.
Thank you, Carolyn. We're now ready for a committee motion, and this will be presented by the resolution supporting international students and employees is a motion from the Executive Committee, which is composed of the UAC, who are the campus presidential line, and the chairs of the Senate standing committees. Presenting the motion is Arnold Maltz, past president of the Tempe campus and the University Senate president-elect. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. I'm going to read this motion verbatim. You should also have it available if you've downloaded the Senate agenda. Senate Motion 2017-59. Whereas recent executive orders suspended entry into the United States of individuals from Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, and Yemen. Whereas there are current and prospective students and faculty members from these 6 countries who are currently enrolled or seeking to study or work at Arizona State University. Whereas recent events and federal executive orders have resulted in feelings of insecurity and uncertainty among many ASU faculty, academic professionals, staff, and students who are not United States citizens. Whereas recent executive orders are contrary to the values expressed in the ASU Charter, which states, ASU is a comprehensive public research university measured not by whom we exclude, but rather by whom we include and how they succeed, advancing research and discovery of public value, and assuming fundamental responsibility for the economic, social, and cultural and overall health of the communities it serves. And whereas the faculty and academic professionals of Arizona State University support previous public statements made by ASU administration regarding these events and orders, be it resolved that the faculty and academic professionals of ASU oppose any policy that unfairly limits the ability of students or employees to travel freely to and from the Arizona State University, limits the ability of students to pursue their academic interests and graduation requirements, or prohibits faculty members from exercising their academic freedom, no matter their country of origin or religion.
Thank you, Arnie. I'm going to go around the campuses to see if there are any questions or comments. Again, this is first read. We're not voting today. I will go to downtown the first.
No comments from the group downtown.
Thank you. Polytechnic.
No questions here.
Thank you. And West.
There are no questions from West.
Thank you. I see none here in Tempe. Thank you, Arnie. Okay, we're ready now for old business. We have a new course proposal consent agenda. You received that first read via email on March 13th. Senate Motion 2017-47. We are offering these courses for approval as a consent agenda. Before taking the vote, are there any courses any senator would like to remove from the consent agenda? Downtown first.
All good here.
All good, okay. Polytechnic, any to remove?
Nothing to remove.
West?
No, nothing to remove.
And Tempe? Nothing to remove. Okay. We'll now take a vote on the consent agenda approving these new courses.
It looks like we're at 82.
Okay, very good.
84, so I'll close it.
Close it. Okay.
84 yes, 0 no, 0 abstain. Motion
All right.
First time ever.
Our abstainers are gone. Yay. This is the course proposal. Okay. We now have committee motions, and representing the next two motions is Greg Stone.
Hi, I'm Greg Stone, Research and Creative Activities Committee. This year, Research and Creative Activities Committee became a standing Senate committee, and this has required a few adjustments to phrasing or wording in Research and Sponsored Projects Manual. In this case, what we're doing is moving the subcommittee on classified research and making it a university committee. And we met with OCAD and worked out, I think, some improvements, and part of it was simply adjusting from the words subcommittee to committee.
Are you going to make the motion?
Oh, yes. So I move that the Senate approve Senate Motion 2017-39.
Okay, we have the motion from the committee. Now let me check and see if there are any questions. Are there any questions or discussion from West?
There are no questions from West.
Any questions or discussion from Polytechnic?
No questions from Poly.
Downtown?
No questions from downtown.
Okay. We have none here at Tempe either, so I think we're ready for the vote.
87, Kathy?
Yes,
Go ahead.
that looks good. All right.
82 yes, 0 no, 5 abstain.
5 abstain. Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you. Okay, Greg, second motion.
Okay. As part of the process, we separated classified research from proprietary research, and this necessitated a new section in the RSP manual to cover proprietary research. In this case, it was pretty much just moving it over into a new section and renaming from subcommittee to committee. So I move that the Senate approve Senate Motion 2017-40.
Okay, we have the motion from the committee, and let me see if there are any questions. Are there any questions at West?
No, there are no questions from West.
Okay, any questions at Polytechnic?
No questions.
And downtown?
No questions.
And I don't see anybody moving to the mics here at Tempe, so we're ready for the vote, Chuck. Thank you, Greg. Okay.
85.
Yes. 85, yes. Okay. The motion passed, 83 yes, 1 no, and 1 abstain. Motion passed. Thank you. Helene Osipov is chair of the Open Access Task Force. She will now present a motion from her committee.
The Open Access Task Force has been working with the library and OCAD to come up with this policy. Basically, the idea is that those people who have grants that require open access automatically give a license to ASU. That way it takes care of everything that needs to be done. Otherwise, we are encouraged to participate in open access. We've worked really hard on it. I think it's a good policy, and I move that we put, it's 2017-46, that we accepted.
Thank you. We have a motion from the committee. Let's see if there are any questions regarding this motion. You understand that the full text of the motion is in your agenda. Okay? Let's look at West. Any questions or discussion?
We don't have any questions at West, thanks.
Thank you. Polytechnic
No questions.
and downtown.
No questions.
Anybody here in Tempe? Any questions or discussion? Okay, seeing none, Chuck, I think we're ready for the vote.
Going 87, 88? Go ahead.
All right. The motion is 77 yes, 7 no, 4 abstain. The motion has carried. Thank you. Thank you very much for that hard work.
Thank you. If I may, I'd like to especially thank Annalee Perry from Libraries, who's really done an awful lot of work and pushed us very hard. So thank you very much to Annalee and to the rest of the committee.
Thank you. Shirley Rose, Chair of the Constitution and Bylaws Committee, will now present changes to the Constitution and Bylaws, and we have 5 motions in this area, and to follow along, the text is in your agenda.
Good afternoon. I'm following a script for this today because it's procedurally complicated. I don't think any of the changes that our task force has recommended are complicated. Article 3 of the Constitution calls for a review of the Constitution and bylaws every 4 years. Senate President Kathleen Puckett established the Constitution and Bylaws Task Force in August of 2016 and charged us with conducting the required review in consultation with senators and Senate committees. I am the chair of that task force. Other members are Stefania Triconia, Sandra Meyer-Kreiser, Ed Oding, Ann McEachran, Denise Bodman, Kathleen Puckett, and Chris Kieselka. The task force met multiple times between August and February to identify and discuss needed amendments and develop motions for amendments. Article 3 specifies that amendments may only be introduced at a regular meeting of the Senate. No amendment may be acted upon at the same meeting in which it was introduced. The Constitution and Bylaws Review Task Force brought these motions for a first reading and preliminary question and answer at the February 27, 2017 meeting of the Senate in order to give senators ample time to consider the proposed amendments to the Constitution and Bylaws in advance of today's meeting. Today, we are presenting them for a second reading and vote, and I want to note that I did not receive any questions or feedback. The proposed amendments are of 2 types. The first type is perfecting amendments, which propose changes that correct factual errors, typographical errors, and grammatical errors, or resolve inconsistencies or clarify wording. The second type is substantive amendments that are proposed in order to improve Senate operations in keeping with the Senate's purpose and role in shared governance. Motions to amend Constitution articles and bylaws require 2/3 majority for approval. So we'll go to the perfecting amendments. According to Article 3, a majority of the University Senate membership must approve any amendment. Perfecting amendments, those that address cosmetic corrections of numbering, grammar, and usage, may be ratified by consent of the University Senate. All other amendments to the Constitution must be submitted to the Academic Assembly for ratification. We have one motion related to perfecting changes, which includes all of the proposed perfecting changes. This is Senate Motion 2017-41, ACD 112-01, Constitution and Bylaws Perfecting Changes. The task force considered these perfecting amendments non-controversial, but we ask senators to review them. We ask them to review them before our vote at today's meeting. These perfecting amendments may be ratified by the consent of the University Senate. Therefore, Senate Motion 2017-41, ACD 112-02, Constitution and Bylaws Perfecting Changes is hereby presented for ratification by consent of the University Senate.
Okay, call for discussion from anyone from the West Campus.
There are no questions or comments from West.
Okay, Polytechnic,
No discussion or questions.
downtown,
No questions.
and I don't see anyone here in Tempe. So we have the motion for the perfecting changes, perfecting amendments. We're ready for the vote. Looks like it stopped. Okay, 81 yes, 0 no, 5 abstain, and we need,
57.
okay, so it passed. Motion passed. Motion carried.
We'll move on then to the substantive amendments to articles of the Constitution. The motions related to proposed amendments to the articles of the Constitution bundle all proposed changes within a particular article into a single motion. However, individual amendments may be broken out for discussion and vote at the request of any senator. Wording of each of the amendments has been carefully considered by the Constitution and Bylaws Review Task Force and has been reviewed by the University Academic Council and the Senate Executive Committee. Revisions to the wording of the amendments will not be made on the floor of the Senate. That is, the President will not hear motions to amend the amendments as currently worded. In other words, they can be broken out but not revised. In accordance with Article 3 of the Constitution, any amendments to Article 1 of the Constitution that are approved by a majority of the Senate must be subsequently submitted to the Academic Assembly for ratification. If these motions related to amendments of the Constitution are passed, an announcement of the date and time of these assembly meetings, or this assembly meeting, will be announced as soon as possible. We now present Senate Motion 2017-42 ACD 112-01, Constitution and Bylaws Amendment, Article 1 Amendments. There's one substantive change to Article 1 of the Constitution included in Senate Motion 2017-42, Constitution and Bylaws, Article 1 Amendments. The proposed amendment includes the Senate President in the list of members of the University Academic Council. The rationale for this change is that once Senate President assumes his or her position, the previous position he or she held in a campus presidential rotation is filled. Thus, the President becomes the 13th member of the UAC. I will call then for, well, I've made the motion.
Yeah.
Okay, I've made the motion. I'm calling for discussion. Is there any discussion from West?
No discussion.
Any discussion from the Poly campus?
None here.
Any discussion from the downtown campus?
Nothing here.
Thank you.
None here in Tempe. It looks like we're ready to call for the vote. It keeps going up. I think it's ready.
We
yeah.
need 59 or so.
We need 59. Okay, 82 yes, 1 no, 7 abstain. The motion carried.
We now present Senate Motion 2017-43 ACD 112-01, 12-01 Constitution and Bylaws Article 2 amendments. All substantive changes to Article 2 of the Constitution are combined into Senate Motion 2017-43 ACD 112-01 Constitution and Bylaws Article 2 amendments. There are 3 proposed changes. All will be voted on together unless there is a request to break out one or more of the changes for a separate vote. The proposed changes include the following: adding the stipulation that the primary role of faculty members elected by their units to be senators should be teaching and/or research. Our rationale is that faculty members with administrative appointments at the level of department head and above, or chair and above, may identify more with administrative concerns than with faculty concerns, which undermines the goals of shared governance. The second change is in Article 2A, 2D, and it adds, quote, the chairs of the Senate standing committees, end quote, to the list of ex officio voting members of the Senate. The rationale is that appointed/elective committee chairs are already members of the Senate Executive Committee and are critical to the operational success of the Senate. The task force believes that their omission from this section is an oversight and recommends inclusion. And the third change in Article 2 is in Section B1J, and it adds to the language, quote, the Executive Committee can appoint vacated positions on the UAC if all other measures have been exhausted, end quote. That's added to the description of the University Academic Council. The rationale for this amendment is that it establishes a procedure to assure a complete and functional University Academic Council. Is there any, I'll call for discussion now. Any discussion from the West Campus?
There's no discussion from West. Thanks.
Thank you. Any discussion from the Poly campus?
No discussion, thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion from the downtown campus?
No discussion.
Thank you. And it appears there's no one at the microphone here in the Tempe campus.
Okay, so we're ready for the vote.
$88.
Okay. 83 approve, 3 no, 2 abstain. Motion carries.
Yes, you need 57, 58.
Thank you.
There were no proposed changes to Article 3 of the Constitution. Since one or more of these motions has passed, we will proceed with scheduling of a forum of the Academic Assembly. Those will be held on Tuesday, April 11th, 2017, from 2:30 to 3:30 p.m. You can make a note of that now, but we'll also be sending out an announcement about when those Academic Assembly forums will meet. Now we'll move on to proposed amendments to bylaws. The remainder of the amendments proposed by the task force are changes to the bylaws. Amendments to the bylaws may only be introduced at a regular meeting of the Senate. No amendment can be acted upon at the same meeting in which it's introduced. Thus, we introduce these amendments at the February 27th meeting and present them for a vote at today's meeting. A 2/3 vote of those Senate members present and voting is necessary to adopt an amendment to the bylaws. An affirmative vote on a motion to amend the bylaws is not subject to a motion to reconsider. There are no proposed changes to Bylaw 1 of the Constitution and bylaws. We'll now present Senate Motion 2017-44, ACD 112-01, Constitution and Bylaws, Bylaw 2 amendments. All substantive changes to Bylaw 2 of the Constitution and bylaws are included in this Senate motion. There are multiple interrelated and interdependent proposed changes. All will be voted on together unless there is a request to break out one or more of the changes for a separate vote. The proposed changes include the following. First, the rationale for the first 3 changes to Bylaw 2 is that in order for Senate committees to conduct their business efficiently and effectively, it is necessary to establish practices that identify committee leadership prior to the start of the fall semester and ensure continuity of the committee's work from one year to the next. Bylaw 2B3G changes the timing of the appointment of chairs for Senate committees from the summer to the spring semester of the year prior to the year in which they will serve, and further specifies that chairs should come from the existing committee roster. Quote, between January 1 and June 1 annually, the President-elect of the University Senate, working with the University Senate President, the Chair of the Committee on Committees, and the current committee chair, should appoint a chair-elect for each Senate committee and Senate Standing Committee. Chairpersons should be selected from the existing committee roster, but may be appointed from outside that roster if no suitable candidates are identified. If a committee chair cannot be selected within this time frame, then the Senate President shall make all appointments no later than the start of the fall semester. Individuals selected to serve as chairs of Senate standing committees shall be considered voting members of the Senate. If selected in their final year of committee service, chair-elects shall have their service extended 1 additional year to accommodate serving in the chairperson role. With the exception of the Committee on Committees, which has a 2-year term, the term for all other committee chairpersons is 1 academic year. Next, Bylaw 2B3H adds the following language regarding replacing committee chairs. In the event a Senate committee chairperson vacates a position during the academic year, the Senate President shall appoint a new person to serve as chair, and the appointment process for the chair-elect shall be followed. The third section, this is Bylaw 2B3I, adds language specifying the scheduling of committee's first meeting of the year. Quote, the first regular meeting of each Senate committee should be held no later than October 1st annually. Okay, the next set of amendments in Bylaw 2 are proposed for description of the membership of all Senate standing committees that are covered in Bylaw 2B7, including the membership of the Committee on Committees, the Personnel Committee, the Student Faculty Policy Committee, and the University Services and Facilities Committee. The first of these proposed amendments related to committee membership changes the description of committee membership from specifying the number from each campus to specifying only that the committees must include representation from each campus. The task force rationale is this. Currently, senators from the downtown Phoenix, West, and Polytechnic campuses bear a larger percentage of the Senate committee service requirements relative to the size of their respective campus assemblies. This change ensures campus representation while providing for an equitable distribution of the committee service work across all 4 of the campuses. The second change related to standing committee membership deletes this language, quote, senators' votes will only be counted toward nominees from their own campus, end quote. The rationale for this change is that current practice is for all senators to ratify the committee roster slate at Senate meeting number 1 annually. Additionally, Senate membership is based on unit identity and not on campus identity. The third change related to standing committee membership specifies that, quote, the committee should have representation from tenure/tenure eligible as well as non-tenure eligible faculty, end quote. The task force rationale was as follows. As the size and proportion of the faculty who are non-tenure eligible grows, these faculty members should be represented in discussions related to the responsibilities of the Student Faculty Policy Committee. Change to the description of the Personnel Committee's relationships Also deletes mention of the Committee on Academic Professional Status. This committee was dissolved per UAC transmittal to Provost Searle on November 11, 2015. I'll call for discussion now. Is there any discussion from the West Campus?
No discussion from West.
Thank you. Any discussion from the Poly Campus?
No discussion here.
Thank you. Any discussion from the Downtown Campus?
No discussions from downtown.
Thank you. And there's no one waiting at the microphone here on the Tempe Campus.
Okay, so we have the motion on those amendments to the bylaws, and we're ready for a vote. Looks like it stopped.
84.
Okay.
We need 55 votes here.
We have 77 yes, 5 no, 2 abstain, so the motion passes. Okay.
Okay, we're in the home stretch. We now present Senate Motion 2017-45 ACD 112-01, Constitution and Bylaws, Bylaw 3 amendments. All substantive changes to Bylaw 3 of the Constitution and Bylaws are included in Senate Motion 2017-44 ACD 112-01, Constitution and Bylaws, Bylaw 3 amendments. There are multiple proposed changes. All will be voted on together unless there is a request to break out one or more of the changes for a separate vote. The first is in Bylaw 3A1, to change to the discussion of standard election procedures. The following addition is proposed. Quote, campus affiliations of nominees for campus president-elect, Committee on Academic Freedom and Tenure, Governance Grievance Committee, and Academic Professional Grievance Committee must be confirmed by the Committee on Committees. The rationale for this amendment is that the identity of campus affiliations is a critical component of governance structure based on respective campus representation. The next change is in Section A5 of Bylaw 3. This proposed change corrects an inaccuracy in the process description for the duration of the notification period during which names can be added to the ballot prepared by the Committee on Committees. And the third in Bylaw 3 is in Section B4. This proposed amendment adds the following stipulation to the discussion of election procedures. Quote, a campus president who has completed a term as past president shall wait 1 year before running again for president-elect, end quote. The rationale for this change is that this will help ensure diversity and engage new leadership for the Senate. Okay, I'll call now for discussion from the West Campus.
No discussion from West.
Thank you. Is there any discussion from the Poly Campus?
No discussion, thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion from the Downtown Campus?
Nothing from downtown.
Thank you. And there's no one at the microphone here on the Tempe Campus.
The motion has been made. We're ready for a vote.
So on C80, and you'd need 53 votes
Okay.
to pass.
We have 75, so the motion carries. Thank you. You have one more thing to say.
Thank you to the task force that worked since September on this job. And that concludes our business related to Senate ratification of the amendments to the Constitution and bylaws.
Thank you very much. I know that was very difficult work and very tedious work, and but I think it'll move us forward in a positive direction. So thank you for your patience and your attention to these details. We now have the CAPC consent agenda. Carolyn Harrison presents the following CAPC motions for Senate approval.
The following motion is going to be presented as a consent agenda. It was voted on at the last CAPC meeting and approved, and that is the, request from the College of Health Solutions, School of Nutrition and Health Promotion for the name change of a graduate degree from PhD in Physical Activity, Nutrition and Wellness to PhD in Exercise and Nutritional Services. We'll go around and see if anybody would like to remove anything from the consent agenda for further discussion. Downtown campus. Would you like to remove anything from the consent agenda?
I believe that the name was New Sciences, not Services.
Yes, I believe that is correct. That was taken, must be from the previous.
I believe it's correct on the website, but it didn't get corrected here.
Yeah, the website is correct. What was voted on at CAPC was correct. I'm sorry that this was not corrected.
That's fine. I just want to make sure. I'm on the same floor, so I don't want them to come back and haunt me.
No, this Sciences is what was voted on with CAPC.
Perfect.
Okay. West Campus, would you like to remove anything from the consent agenda?
No, we don't.
And Poly Campus?
Nothing to remove.
I don't see anyone trying to remove anything on the Tempe campus, so we will go ahead and call for the vote to approve the CAPC consent agenda. Go ahead and close it. The consent agenda is approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. Whew. We're now ready for some committee reports. Committee on Committees, Chris Kieselka.
The Academic Assembly elections are coming up very soon. I'd like to begin with thanking members of the Committee on Committees for their efforts in recruiting faculty and academic professionals to stand for election. It's not easy to ask others to run, and they did an outstanding job. The Academic Assembly elections will take place April 26th through May 2nd. You'll have the opportunity to elect new members of the grievance committees, as well as your campus president-elect. You'll be receiving an email announcement in a couple weeks listing candidates for your campus. Thank you very much.
And I believe we have a report from Keith Hollinger, Student Faculty Policy Committee. Is that correct, Keith?
Yeah, we have concluded nearly all of the agenda this semester, or this year. I have one statement to issue to a group of students, and I will be sending that to the Senate as well. What I was planning on doing was putting that into the next meeting along with my final report. So that's it for our report right now.
Thank you. We're now ready for open forum. Is there anyone who would like to speak in open forum? Please state your name, and I'll start with Tempe since I see someone coming to the mic. State your name and your unit, please.
Yeah, my name is Jose Menendez. I'm in the physics department, and I'd like to bring up an issue with the grade scales at ASU. We define the grade A as excellent, the grade B as good, but the grade C as average. So there is a logical inconsistency there because the A, B, and D are defined in an absolute scale, whereas the C grade is defined in a relative scale. And this has some practical implications. For example, in our department, and I guess in many other departments, we teach the same course in parallel sections with different instructors, and we have agonized over the issue of having a uniform criterion for grades. And this has some academic freedom implications, so it's a thorny issue. And so we have had meetings trying to come up with some consistent and intelligent criteria for determining those grades, but we're stuck at this definition because there are many possible interpretations, just that the very definition from ASU is inconsistent. So I'd like to recommend that we kind of revisit those definitions and come up with some more consistent set of grades.
Thank you. We'll take that to the UAC. While we're on Tempe, is there anyone else here who would like to speak in open forum? Okay. Let me go to the West Campus. Open forum discussion.
We don't have anything for open forum.
Thank you. Polytechnic
Nothing here, thank you.
and downtown.
Nothing from downtown.
Okay. I think we're ready for the final item on the agenda, which is adjournment. I move to adjourn. Thank you.